everyone, welcome to the first episode of our Unlocking Data series, where we uncover everything you need to know about personal data sovereignty in the Web3 ecosystem, including topics around data ownership in the Metaverse. In the coming episodes of the series, we'll also be covering interesting topics on how you can earn from your data and own your digital data. Isn't that fascinating? Well, let's dive into this series and talk to Mark. Mark is the founder of Itheum and he's joining us all the way from Sydney, Australia. Hi, Mark. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Anita. Thanks for having me, and I'm super excited to be here.
So, Mark, you're working on Itheum, I believe. What is Itheum? Can you give us a preview on that? And what is the problem that you're trying to solve over here?
Sure. So, Itheum is solving the problem of data ownership in the Web3 world. So, most people are probably familiar with this problem in their day-to-day lives. You know, you're using all of these apps and services that are given to you for free, but in turn, what's happening is you're paying for it with your data. And the companies that are hosting these apps and services, you know, they use this data to increase their profits, learn more about sort of you and people like you. But what we have observed is as we are moving into sort of more cutting edge technology, the Metaverse and all of these virtual concepts, we really need to rethink the ideas around data ownership. And blockchain is a perfect use case for this. So Itheum is the data platform for the Metaverse. In other words, we are going to give you back ownership of your data as we enter this virtual world of the Metaverse.
Awesome. So why do you think, right now is the time? Maybe, why is it that solving this problem right now is so crucial?
So technology is like evolving at a crazy pace, right? Like let's look back 5 years ago. Let's not even go back beyond 5 years. Everything we do now is on the internet, right? From our financial stuff, our health stuff, social media. And most often we forget that we're leaving this massive data footprint every time we use the internet. And a lot of us don't know what data has been collected about us, what it's being used for, where it's being stored. Now, this is only getting compounded as we're moving into more and more advanced technological revolutions and new advances in tech. So we're starting to see this as we now talk a lot about the Metaverse, right? What's the Metaverse? Well, it's like almost the virtual world overlaid on top of the physical world. So who are the companies now who are going to be operating in this Metaverse and how are they going to be treating the data? So I think what we're seeing is technology is advancing, but data ownership and concepts around giving us the choice to, or the ability to choose who takes our data, all of these concepts are being ignored. So I think it's a very timely period now where we have to address this. So let technology advance, but we have to also make sure that data ownership and sovereignty, personal data sovereignty also advances at the same time. And it's also the perfect time now because we have this revolution of blockchain. Blockchain is the ideal method to verify ownership of things, and data is no different, right? It's your data, and we're going to use the blockchain. We have created a seamless platform for you to be able to use it to verify ownership, and then also create new markets for you to be able to trade and sell your data. So it's the right time. The technology is there. The advancements in blockchain is there, so Itheum is coming at the right time to solve this problem.
I see. Interesting. That's very interesting because now that we see the blockchain is bringing decentralization into each and every concept. Now, when we talk about data decentralization, as Itheum is trying to do, why do you think Itheum is going to be a much better or a much different solution to data decentralization than something that is already in the market? Or how is it that you view this thing going forward as a solution?
Yeah, so if you look at what's in the market right now, so if there are centralized platforms that are aiming to solve data ownership, so which is great. We love seeing all of these platforms appear because it highlights the need for a solution to this problem. We have been ignoring it for far too long. And there are companies even in the mainstream coming up, they're getting funded to solve these problems, right? Of data ownership, giving you back ownership of your data, trying to locate where your data is stored. So that's great. But to us, fundamentally, this is still a centralized solution to the problem. So the companies that are coming up with these new products are also centralized, and they are also prone to attack. All of their data that they are kind of storing, or probably the technology they're using to find your data and to present the companies using your data, they are also centralized solutions. So they are also prone to the same types of attacks any other technology company exists. So the real solution to this problem is blockchain, because it's decentralized. There is no central ownership. You cannot take down a platform that's built on the blockchain, because if you take it down on one side, it's going to appear on the other side. So if we are going to solve data ownership, data provenance, the ability for you to own your data in a decentralized way, blockchain is the only tool to do it. Now let's move into the data platforms that already exist in the blockchain, trying to do something similar. The way we differ from them is we are making it, the way we explain it is we are lowering the barrier to entry. We're going after use cases that are very easy for you to adopt, right? We don't want to go after the really complicated, regulated use cases like health and finance, because that's really complex to do. So we're going after the low-hanging fruit. We are letting you just join our products, sell any sort of data that you have. We are creating markets for that data. And a good example is we're starting off with focusing on play to earn and gaming and Metaverse data, where there's a lot of data being generated. So we are creating a new market for this. And that's really super exciting, because what we feel like is Itheum's providing a product in blockchain with the lowest barrier to entry and quite viral and exciting to use.
Awesome. Learning about all of this is very fascinating, as we see the gaming industry actually growing at a like a great pace in the metaverse, I would say, the play to earn games. But as you said, it's all about the ownership of the data, because right now we are bringing that concept into place, and Itheum is doing their effort into bringing this into place. But tell me, for a layman, to understand that I own the data, where do I see my data? Where do I gain access to my data? Say, yes, I have the data, but I have the ownership. Where do I gain access to that ownership?
Yes, so Itheum has a few key features. One of the features is what we call the data analytics and collection toolkit. And what this is it lets any real world entity, it can be commercial or just a research institute, small to medium businesses, they use this framework to build apps that collect personal data. The only difference with our toolkit and all the other sort of mainstream apps is that the organizations using this toolkit will never own your data. They have access to view sort of cohort-based analysis, like if you think of it as a group-based analytics, but they cannot get your data. So the way we encrypt and stuff like that makes it so that they can only see high-level insights on the data. Now, once the data is collected from this data collection analytics toolkit, we have an on-ramp or a bridge to take the data into the Web3 world. And that's where our second feature set comes in, and that's called the Data DEX, or the Data Decentralized Exchange. Now, once you join this, there are tools within the Data DEX can discover all the apps that you have joined, and it will suck in all that data. We even have tools that can suck in all your on-chain and your off-chain data based on the address that you logged in. And it stores it in its own sort of data vault. So it's very seamless. You log into the Data DEX, it discovers all this data, brings it together. And then once the data is there, it's linked to your private key. So this is like almost imagining that your data now lives in your wallet, and you can take that wherever you want to go. So now we've solved the problem of bringing data from Web 2 into Web 3 and locking it in the blockchain. So that goes to your next, the question that you asked is, what can I do with this now that I have it, right?
Yeah.
And that's finding markets for your data, right? So we have now created a whole bunch of products that let you trade your data. So we have peer-to-peer trading, so you can trade it, like I can take your data, you can buy my data. We have this revolutionary, very interesting concept called data NFTs, which lets you take a subset of your data, wrap it in an NFT, and then trade it in secondary markets. And whoever owns the NFT owns access to your data. So that's pretty cool. We have, and also a super fascinating idea, what we call NFMe. And this is currently being worked on, but we're going to launch it very soon. NFMe is effectively the virtual avatar of yourself in the metaverse. And all the data points that are collected, they populate the NFMe and change its appearance, and it's almost like a dynamic NFT. And the idea we see is you can take the NFMe and enter any virtual verse. It doesn't have to be Itheum's metaverse in the future, but it can be an existing metaverse or a virtual world. And you can enter those and you can interact with other NFMe and the other virtual avatars. And finally, another feature that we created that is fascinating, and we're probably the first to do this, is a concept of data coalition DAOs. And what they are is they are effectively bulk buyers of data. Now, if you think about it, right, you have a lot of data, but you probably don't have the skills to find a buyer, right? Because it's such a complex thing. Who's going to buy my data? Is it even worth if I'm selling it one-on-one? But the data coalition will be run by people who understand that. So there might be people with a legal background, a regulation background, people who understand so specific industries like health, finance. They can set up a coalition, buy data from multiple people, and then bulk sell it. Then they take a cut of it, so that becomes like a business model for them. But then they also provide you due payment for what you're given. So all of these things in combination makes Itheum effectively the only platform you need to bridge data from Web 2 into Web 3 and find all of these fascinating use cases for it.
Perfect. I was actually going to ask you, my next question was, around how, if a person, it's a peer-to-peer selling of data, right? So as a layman, like if I were to have some data, I wouldn't even know where to sell it, or why would someone buy my data, right? Now when you told about the coalition, I think it makes more sense that the data is valuable. But then how do I come to know how much is my data valued at, or is it up to me to value it? How does one find the value of one's data?
Yes, so this is a very interesting question. It's the concept around valuation of anything, right? The valuation of anything is depending on the supply and demand of it. Now, if you look at your data by itself, it's probably not worth a lot, just like my data by itself is not worth a lot. But if we can create a demographic of people like you, right, from the same age group, gender, and even some other sort of socioeconomic or demographic metrics, and we can group the data in, then it's worth a lot of money. And likewise for different people in different parts of the world. A good example is if you look at health, for example, right? If you see people who have chronic health conditions, and if you get access to that data is worth so much of money to somebody like a pharmaceutical trying to create a new drug or want to test the effectiveness of an existing drug. That's just health, but that same sort of concept can be applied in finance, in social media, in ad tech, anything, right? Because as soon as you have cohorts of data, it's worth a lot of money. And that's what data coalitions do. Data coalitions would discover these cohorts, and you can align to it and you can sell it. Now, how much is your data worth? Well, at the moment, something as simple as your email is worth like $80, right? But we don't want you to sell your email. That's not the intention of Itheum. But it gives you an idea of how one single metric that could benefit someone like who's trying to send you an email is worth $80. So how about then your financial history or your social media history? Can you imagine how much it's worth? And again, when it's grouped into like a massive data set that somebody can buy, it's worth a lot of money. And the other thing to note is, the world is moving at such a crazy pace, and we're moving into the metaverse and all these virtual worlds. Your data is only going to exponentially grow in value. It's not going to get less valuable. It's the one thing that we can guarantee that's going to grow exponentially in value.
Awesome. Now that, solves a lot of doubts in my head, because that gives a lot of clarity as to, yeah, I really don't just have to own my data and sell it individually or find buyers for it, but it is valued at a a great amount, or whatever the value is, and it will only exponentially grow when it is collated into different databases.
Correct.
I get it. Now, do you think that, who would say, just give me a use case on who would be a potential, like as you said, a pharmacy would be a potential buyer, right, for a data like for health. Who do you think would, be more such examples of buyers?
Yeah, so as I was saying, the thing that makes Itheum different to our existing competitors is this in a more pragmatic way. We are not trying to go and shake up the whole social media industry, all of that right now. I think what we need to do is create use cases that can be used today, right? And the use case we are most excited about is gaming, Metaverse, and play to earn. Now, I'll give you an example of what we're working on right now. So if you look at one of the most popular games right now, Axie Infinity, I don't know if you played, but that's a huge amounts of people around the world played. And in many countries, like in Asia, it's like a source, it's their whole livelihood. They play that game. The play to earn fees that come out of it is what that they depend on from a livelihood perspective. But if you look at the different types of users within that game, right, a lot of them depend on data. And you'll notice now what's happening with gaming guilds and gaming guild hubs is they are kind of becoming like centralized controllers of this data. So all of this gameplay that's happening, all of the leasing of these NFTs by managers for gameplay, when they make a cut of that, all of the data that could help a player, the end player, is now kind of getting locked up. So we are looking at ways of unlocking that on Itheum. So we are pulling on-chain, off-chain statistics on gameplay. Also things like breeding, for example. If you're breeding to Axies, how do you know what are the data points that you could use to determine the value of the offspring? Now, something like that sounds very sort of not very relevant, but we think it's a good use case to actually demonstrate Itheum's power, right? To be able to pull this analytics in, decentralize this analytics, create some value market around it, but we'll probably wrap it in a data NFT and we'll let the market determine the price of it. And then the data NFT could even be traded. So if you're a breeder, you buy the NFT, you get access to these insights. If you really like what you see and you're earning some money, you can choose to keep it for yourself, or you can trade it in secondary markets and take a royalty from it as it gets moved on. So what we're doing here is demonstrating how we can take a problem that we've looked at, that's probably not as serious as health and finance, but something that needs solving, creating the solution for it, letting the market determine the price of it, and whilst using all these metrics, we can also improve our technology. But then we'll move on to the more serious or more the ones that have a bigger social impact, heading into health being the biggest thing, right? If Itheum as an idea started about 6 or 7 years ago with the sole intention of unlocking health data silos, and then we have evolved over time, but we will go back into it. So in health, one of the biggest problems we have right now is people around the world that are collecting health information, but it's just continuously getting locked in silos, whether it's with your doctor, whether it's in a hospital, your government's health system, the private health systems. Can you imagine the amount of benefit we can get if we unlock it? From a perspective of research and development, new drug discovery, cures for diseases like cancer, early detection of diseases like cancer. Like, it's insane when you think about what we can enable if we can create the free market flow of health-based data. But then financial, there's so many use cases around being able to look at your spending patterns, determining if you are heading in a bad direction of debt, providing you those insights. Wherever you unlock data, you're going to find these amazing social benefits. That's what our goal is. But as I mentioned, we're not going to try to go and stir the ships in all of the complex regulated markets. We'll start small, focus on some real interesting use cases, and then we'll grow from there.
Great. That's really amazing. amazing and so much of clarity. Maybe I did not expect it to go in this direction, but with so much clarity around NFTs and how the whole working would happen and the exciting angle of gaming into it, I feel this is something really, really interesting and for people to look forward to on the kind of journey that Itheum is going to have. Anything that you would like to add on, for our audience to, keep a look on Itheum or something that you're coming up with? Please just share that.
Yeah, so we're super excited. We're going to be launching a new website, a new branding in the next week or so, I would say. But also our whole paradigm around Metaverse and being the data platform, the data backbone of the Metaverse. This is a very valid use case, right? And I think a lot of people are concerned that as we're heading, as the major social media platforms are now entering into the Metaverse, what does it mean for their data? And Itheum is here right from the beginning to kind of balance that power. We're going to give you back your power of data ownership as we enter into the Metaverse. Our objective is to make sure that when we move from the real world into this virtual world, the same mistakes don't happen, and we're going to provide the platform to make that happen. So it's going to be a really exciting next few months. We are really ramping up the team. We're really ramping up our efforts to really make this mainstream. But at the same time, we are heavily involved in tech. We are releasing it on a weekly basis because we are, with the way we look at it is we deliver the tech first, and then we make sure the product finds its way into the market. So that was my last statement, and I'm super excited for the community to join us at this time. We are growing really fast, so join our Telegram, join our Twitter, stay involved with what the team's doing, and would love to have you on board.
Amazing. It was lovely speaking with you, Mark, and getting all that insight for our series called Unlocking Data series. It was really amazing, and I hope to see Itheum doing really well.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It was really nice talking to you as well, and looking forward to doing more of this.
Thank you so much.